They posted the boarding photo at 11:47 in the morning. My husband was in it. My parents were in it. My sister was waving with both arms the way she has since she was 6. I was not in it. I was 3 floors up in the antepartum unit with a blood pressure cuff on my arm and my daughter's heartbeat ticking through a monitor. Watching the noon news with the sound off while the reporter's mouth made the word unforgettable. I checked my phone. The card alert had come in 6 days earlier. I'd been in a monitoring appointment and swiped it away without reading. Cruise trip. $3,750. My card. Not the joint card. Mine. I called my husband. He picked up on the second ring, easy as a Sunday. A half-beat pause. The smallest half-beat in the world. The kind only auditors and wives can hear. At work, he said. Calmly, and I smiled at the ceiling tiles and whispered, "Enjoy yourself." And hung up before he could add a single decorative detail. My name is Sarah Newell. I'm 34. A CPA. A senior accounting manager. The person who signs off when the numbers are finally true. I was 31 weeks pregnant, admitted for preeclampsia risk, growing a daughter who would not be born for 5 more weeks. And I had just watched my family board a luxury liner out of Port Miami while my credit card paid for the excursions package. By the time that ship came home, there were people at Newell Marine Group who would never look at my father the same way again. One of them was his oldest banker. Another was the ears. And the last one was me. Welcome to our channel, where quiet women stop being quiet and the books finally tell the truth. If you have ever been the one who does the family's paperwork and never gets a seat at the family's table, you are exactly where you need to be tonight. Drop a comment and tell me what you've been keeping quiet about. Subscribe. Because what I submitted from a hospital rolling table at 4:19 on a Thursday afternoon is the reason this story has an ending. Let me go back. Because what happened in room 412 didn't start there. I am a CPA. I find discrepancies for a living. I reconcile accounts down to the penny, and I sign my name at the bottom when the numbers are finally true. That is my whole professional identity. The numbers tell me what happened, not what someone said happened, what actually happened. I have ended beautiful presentations with 3 flat questions. I have made CFOs go very still by reading their own documents back to them. This is not a personality quirk. It is the job. My father is Ray Newell, 62, silver hair, handshake like a boat winch. He built Newell Marine Group from 1 slip on the causeway to 12, and he is a genuinely gifted salesman of beautiful boats to people who mostly cannot afford them. His gospel, delivered at showrooms and christenings and my wedding, is this: looking poor costs more than being poor. He believes it the way other men believe in God. It is not a performance. It is the organizing principle of his life, and once you understand that, everything else in this story arranges itself in order. My mother, Bonnie, runs the family's image the way some women run a household. Invitations out. Appearances up. Questions down. My sister Kayla is 30 and was the company's marketing director, a title with no hours I ever witnessed. And Derek, my husband, is 36, handsome in the way that closes deals, and had been sales director at my father's company for 3 years. Which meant, though I didn't do the math until later, that I was the only person at our dinner table whose paycheck didn't run through my dad. And then there was the other job. Every January for 15 years, since I was 19 years old. I tidied the books for Newell Marine Group. Unpaid, of course, unpaid. You don't invoice family. My father would hand me a banker's box of statements, pour me the good coffee, and say I was the only one he trusted with the real numbers. I want you to remember that phrase. The real numbers. In my family, January was how I proved my love, in spreadsheets reconciled to the penny. Signed where the preparer signs. I was proud of it, the way you are proud of any language you are fluent in before you find out what it is actually being used for. There was a chair attached to that pride. The CFO seat, promised at 19, re-promised at 24, toasted in front of 30 boat dealers at 29. Titles are for strangers, my father said. Family doesn't need org charts. And I saw it. I want to be clear that I saw it. I'm a woman who finds discrepancies for a living, and this one was mine to find. I just kept booking my love where he told me to book it, every January, and carried the difference forward like goodwill. That's the thing about being fluent in a language. You can read every word and still miss what it's for. The hospital part started on a Tuesday in my 31st week. A routine appointment, and then the cuff went around my arm and the nurse's face did the thing nurse faces do when they've decided not to alarm you. 158/94. Preeclampsia risk. Admission. A bed by the window. Monitors that turned my daughter's heartbeat into a soundtrack. And a whiteboard by the door where each shift wrote my numbers in blue marker. My family left that week for what they called a dealer conference in Tampa. 4 days. Maybe 5. Big accounts. Huge for the company. Rest, my mother told me. Grow my granddaughter. We'll all be boring in Tampa. I remember feeling grateful. I want to put that on the record because it's the detail I would change if I could. My family left town to lie to me, and I lay in that bed feeling grateful they had somewhere important to be. It was a Thursday. Lunch tray untouched. The Noon News ran a piece on a luxury liner making her maiden voyage out of Port Miami. I was half watching the way you watch anything in a hospital. Which is to say, like it's weather. And then the camera panned the boarding deck, and the weather became my family. 4 seconds of B-roll. My father raising a glass in the blazer my mother calls his closing jacket. My mother laughing with her chin tipped back, Kayla waving with both arms. And Derek, my husband, in the pale blue linen shirt I had ironed and hung on the closet door before I was admitted, laughing at something my father said. The reporter used the word unforgettable. A commercial for flooring came on. I sat very still. And then I checked my phone. Rosa came in 2 minutes later to check my pressure. 162. She looked at me. I looked at the ceiling. I'm going to need my laptop, I said. Here is what I did not do. I did not call my mother. I did not call the ship. I did not post anything, cry to anyone, or throw my phone at the flooring commercial. I asked for my laptop, and my neighbor Carmen dropped it at the nurse's station the next morning. Derek texted a heart. Glad you've got your projects, babe. Slammed with meetings. The ship, I would learn, was docked in Cozumel that day. The meetings were a swim-up bar. I opened the laptop and did the thing I have done every January for 15 years. I started with what I could verify. Our joint accounts took one evening with statements I had every legal right to read because my name is on that account. And there it was. Patient to settlement. $28,400 moved out over 18 months and 11 transfers. Each one memoed NMG Bridge. Bridge. Money walking out of my marriage into my father's company, authorized by my husband, one quiet plank at a time. The cruise charge sat on my personal card, the card Derek had been an authorized user on since our honeymoon. Because that is what trust looks like when you are 29 and in love. $37.50, charged to the wife in the hospital bed. I did not delete him from the card that night, though my thumb hovered. Auditors don't spook the account before the count is done. The second night, I went where I should have gone years earlier. The company's shared drive. Legally, with the login they had given me 15 years ago and renewed every January. I was, after all, the family's numbers person. I wasn't hunting, I was preparing. And there, sitting in the shared folder tree like it had every right to be, was a folder called Charters. Ray only. My father is not a details man. That was always my department. He had synced his private bookkeeping into the company drive by accident. I looked at that folder name for a long time. Then I clicked. Because my name had been signing this company's paperwork for 15 years, and whatever lived in there lived under my signature too. Inside was the charter fleet's real ledger. I knew the fake one intimately. I had polished it every January. Cash receipts, modest, and tidy. A struggling side business kept afloat for love of the sea. The real one ran a second column the January version never saw. Cash charters. Bachelor parties. Fishing weekends. Weddings at sunset. Hundreds of them. Years of them. None of them anywhere in anything I had ever been handed. Comment below if you have ever done free work for family and then found out what your love was actually being used for. Comment if you spent years being everyone's answer and nobody's question. Comment if you finally looked at the ledger and realized the column you thought said love had a different header all along. Subscribe. Because what I found next is the reason my father now tells people his own daughter stabbed this family. And he is right about one thing. It was surgical. If you don't work in my field, here's the part where I tell you why my hands went cold. And it wasn't the betrayal. On 5 years of Newell Marine Group's tax returns, in the box where it says Preparer, is my signature. Sarah Newell, CPA. I had prepared those filings in good faith from numbers my father's bookkeeper fed me. And good faith is a real defense, right up until the moment you learn the truth and keep quiet. After that, every silent week converts a victim into an accomplice. Slowly, like interest. I called Priya Shah, a tax attorney I had known since a continuing education seminar a decade ago. The kind of woman who answers the phone like she has already read the file. I talked for 11 minutes. She was quiet for maybe 30 seconds. Then she said, "Sarah, I need you to hear the order of events. Your marriage is a problem for later. Your name is a problem for now. You are on a set of railroad tracks, 8 months pregnant, and the train is called knowledge. What you don't get to do anymore is nothing." I hung up and looked at the whiteboard with my numbers in blue marker, and I heard the shape of the next month of my life. In the payroll file, I found an employee I had never met. Marketing assistant. Salaried at $85,000 a year. No email in the company system. No time cards. No photo at any company party I had ever attended. And a direct deposit account whose last 4 digits I recognized, because I had helped my sister set up that account when she was 23. Kayla's assistant was Kayla, wearing a name like a coat. 5 years of cash receipts that had never seen a tax return. $940,000, give or take the weddings at sunset. Fuel invoices with dates shuffled to move expenses between years. A consulting line that mapped month by month onto my parents' country club dues. I sat back against the hospital pillows and made myself say the true sentence out loud, quietly to the fetal monitor. This was not a marriage problem. A husband on a boat is a marriage problem, and there are professionals for it. This was a federal problem wearing boat shoes. And my name, my clean, boring 20-year career name, was signed under 5 years of its cover story. My daughter kicked hard. Like a co-signature. "I know," I told her, "we're not staying." That was the first time I said we, and I noticed I had said it. That Sunday, Derek video called. Behind him, a plain wall, a lamp, a corner he had angled to look like his office. He had gotten a little son, which he explained as golf with the Tampa guys. He asked about my pressure, about the baby, called her our little line item, and I watched my husband perform tiredness, the rubbed eyes, the loosened collar. And under his voice, far away, unmistakable to anyone who grew up in a port city, a ship's horn. One long note. Derek didn't flinch. He had stopped hearing it days ago. I didn't flinch either. "How's my girl?" he asked, and I put my hand on my belly and I said, "We're fine." 2 words. The first lie I ever told my husband. And lying there in the dark after the call, it didn't feel like sin. It felt like armor. Like the first accurate entry in a household that had been keeping 2 sets of faces for years. The next morning, my father called. Not to confess. Men like my father don't confess, they renegotiate. He opened with the voice he uses on buyers who've gotten cold feet. Warm, amused, a little disappointed in you. "Your husband tells me you're upset about logistics," he said. Logistics. $940,000 of unreported cash receipts, a ghost on the payroll, my signature on 5 years of fiction, and a cruise on my card. Logistics. What do you want, sweetheart? The CFO title? Done. 15% equity? I'll have it drawn up. You're about to be a mother. Don't think like an accountant. I lay there with the phone against my ear and I want to tell you exactly what happened inside me, because it is the hinge of this whole story. Nothing happened. The chair I had wanted since I was 19 years old floated past me on the phone line. Real at last. Offered at last. And it went by like a boat I wasn't on, and I felt the wake, and that was all. It had taken him 15 years to offer it. And one threatened audit. That was the price tag he had finally shown me, and it had never, not once, been denominated in love. 2 days later, the drive access died. They revoked the login after 15 years, the way you'd cancel a gym membership. They were too late in a way they couldn't imagine. Not because I'd raced them to a download. Because of a habit older than any of this. Preparers keep copies of what they prepare and what they prepared it from. It's not paranoia. It's the profession. 15 Januaries of work papers, source summaries, and sign-off sat in my own archive. Dated. Backed up. Boring mine. You can revoke a login. You can't revoke a filing cabinet. That night, my father called again, and the salesman was gone from his voice. What was left was lower, older, colder. Your signature is on 5 years of this company's paperwork, he said. Yours, whatever you think you found it under your own name. This boat goes down, daughter. It goes down with all hands. He waited. I watched my daughter's heartbeat tick across the monitor, steady as a metronome, borrowed courage at 140 beats a minute. He thought he was tying me to the mast. What he had actually done, and only one of us knew it, was read me out loud. The last reason I had for staying quiet. If my name was already on the boat, then silence wasn't safety. Silence was just going down slower. Good night, Dad, I said, and hung up. The morning before discharge, I asked Rosa for a favor. She was updating my whiteboard, all in her square blue capitals, and I asked her to add one line at the bottom. What's the line? She asked. The 14th, I said. Just that. She looked at me for a moment. Nurses don't write extra things on medical boards. Rosa had been a nurse for 30 years. Then she uncapped the marker and wrote it square in blue under my daughter's heart rate. The 14th. The day the ship came home to Port Miami. The day my husband would sit on the edge of my hospital bed smelling of duty-free cologne and tell me about Tampa. Doctors read my vitals off that board every morning for a week and a half with the date of a docking ship sitting under them like a footnote. Not one person said a word. But I saw it every time I opened my eyes. Rosa capped the marker and said the only thing she ever said about any of it that week. Boats come back. That's the thing about boats. On the 14th at 6 in the evening, Derek came back from Tampa with a tan you cannot get in a conference center and a gift bag from the airport. Inside, a box of coconut patties. The kind they sell at every cruise port souvenir shop from here to Cozumel, and I would know because my firm audits a distributor. He kissed my forehead. He sat on the edge of my bed, took my hand, and told me about Tampa. And I asked one soft question just to watch. Did the Henderson deal close? A flicker. The name was on the boat, not in Tampa. And then I got to witness a professional at work. He built it in real time. The Hendersons had sent their money guy instead. Tough negotiators. Went long on day 2. Dad had to work the room. Structure. Texture. A setback for realism. A flattering role for himself. It balanced. It was beautiful. It was exactly like every fake ledger I have ever admired before breaking it apart. He ate one of the coconut patties himself, telling me about Tampa's terrible traffic. He had bought his own alibi at the port and then eaten it. I watched him lick sugar off his thumb. This man I chose. And I felt the last soft thing in me file for its own divorce. I confronted him 2 days later about the marriage only. The rest had a lawyer. I waited until he had settled into the recliner with his phone, and I said conversationally, "There's a charge on my card. $37.50. It says cruise trip." The phone came down slowly the way landing gear comes down. And I watched the stages I have watched in conference rooms my whole career. Stage 1, confusion, must be fraud. We should call the bank. Stage 2, minimization. Okay, look. It was the excursions package, the group thing. His card was maxed from trip deposits. And then the sentence he had been issued. Your dad said to just put it on yours. It's a cash flow thing. Your family. Stage 3 is my favorite professionally. Stage 3 is when they explain that the theft was actually belonging. He leaned forward, took my hand in both of his, and said gently, like a man comforting a woman who has failed to understand something lovely. Babe, I married into this family. Your family's money is our money. It all comes around. I married into this family. Not you. Not us. I heard the whole org chart in that sentence. My father at the top, the boats below him, Derek rising, and somewhere down in operations, unsalaried, me, the department that pays. He rubbed his thumb over my knuckles. The monitor galloped softly. You look tired, he said. Tender as anything, you shouldn't stress about money stuff right now. And that was the moment the marriage ended. Not the news broadcast. Not the horn on the video call. That thumb. That tenderness. A man soothing the account he was drawing down. My father came to the hospital on the second day after Nora was born. Not to see the baby first. He came correct. He held his granddaughter like a man who has held babies and been photographed doing it. And for 1 minute, I will give that minute to him. Free. He was just a grandfather. His eyes did something unrehearsed. I saw the 12-year-old with the lunchbox look out through them at all this pink new wealth. Then, he sat Nora down gently, sat in the visitor chair, and lifted his briefcase onto his knees. He laid a leather folder on the rolling table next to the bassinet and turned it to face me. Chief Financial Officer, Newell Marine Group. 20% equity. A salary with a comma I had never seen attached to my own name. Effective the first of the quarter. My chair at last, in writing, with his signature already on it. Waiting above the blank line where mine would go. And there, in the recital, dressed in the nicest suit language can wear, the executive will lead a comprehensive review and standardization of the company's financial records for the preceding 5 years. Standardization, the chair I had wanted my whole adult life, was a named position in front of a fire. A title, a comma, and a blast radius. Family is forever, sweetheart, my father said softly, patting the leather like a hull. This seat was always yours. I was saving it for when you were ready. He left the folder and told me to sleep on it. I want to stop here for a second, because I know some of you watching right now are nodding. If you have ever been handed the thing you wanted for 15 years the exact moment someone needed you to use it to clean up their mess, you know what the inside of that moment feels like. Leave a comment if someone in your life only offered you a seat at the table when they needed you to sign something. Leave a comment if you have ever almost said yes just because you were tired of saying nothing. Subscribe, because what I clicked at 4:19 on a Thursday afternoon is the ending I waited 15 years to write, and it is the only reason this story exists. The night before discharge, Rosa came up from antepartum on her break to see us. She looked at Nora the way experts look at good work. Then she saw the leather folder on the rolling table, because Rosa sees everything, and she asked no questions about it because Rosa asks nothing. She straightened my water pitcher and said to the window more than to me, 30 years on that unit downstairs. You know what I hear from every bed? It'll be different when the baby comes. They'll change. A grandchild changes people. She turned the pitcher handle so I could reach it. Babies don't change people. Babies reveal them. You've had a front row seat for the reveal for 5 weeks now. She headed for the door and stopped. Whatever's in that fancy folder, she said, still not looking at me, you already know what it costs. You've been paying it since before I met you. The only question is whether the baby pays it too. Then she was gone. Crepe soles down the hallway. I sat with my daughter and my father's leather folder and my laptop. And I opened the laptop and logged into the portal Priya had set up. 3 weeks of work, finished and waiting. Amended filings. The disclosure. The timeline of my knowledge, documented from the day the card alert came in to the night I found the real charter ledger. Every page of it lacking exactly one thing, which was my authorization. I ran both scenarios because I had spent 15 years being precise, and I was not about to stop now. Column A. Sign the folder. Nora grows up with a Marina and grandparents at every birthday. I get the title, the comma, the seat, everything I had wanted from age 19. And all it costs is doing what I have done every January for 15 years, except now with equity. That was the sentence that saved me. What you have done every January for 15 years. Column A wasn't a new life. Column A was my old life with his salary. A lifetime appointment to the job of painting rooms and signing my name under other people's stories, renewed annually. With my daughter watching. She would learn it the way I did. Not from lectures, from Januaries. Column B. I press a button, and I lose the Marina. The birthdays, the mother, the city, the chair. And Nora learns from the only teacher whose book she will ever fully audit that her mother's name was not for sale. The board doesn't need a meeting when the numbers are this clean. At 4 o'clock exactly, there was a knock. 2 knuckles. Brisk, Nora startled, then settled. Come in, Dad, I said. And the door opened on the last conversation of my old life. He went to the bassinet first. Of course he did. He's the best closer on the Gulf Coast, and the bassinet was the best thing in the room. He looked down at Nora for a long moment, and his face did the unrehearsed thing. And I let it happen because it was true, and because it was the last free minute I would ever give him. She's got the new chin, he said. God help her. He sat, rested his hand on the leather folder like a captain resting a hand on a rail, and gave the speech. It was a good speech. I had heard drafts of it my whole childhood. Family is a boat, he said. The water out there doesn't love you. Banks, government, strangers, weather. Everything out there wants a piece of the hull. But inside the boat, we are warm. We are dry. And we do not. His voice found its old iron. We do not ever leave the boat. Your grandfather lost his truck. I watched it dragged off on a chain in front of my whole school. Everything I have built since. Every hour. Every deal. Every appearance. He tapped the folder, was so nobody in this family would ever hear that sound again. He unclipped the pen and set it on the leather with the tiny click of a thing completing its journey. Sign it, sweetheart. Take your seat. Fix the past. It's just cleanup. You've done it your whole life and everything goes back to what it was. All of it. Like none of this ever happened. And the terrible part, the part I will be honest about forever, for 2 full seconds, that sentence sounded like rest. I didn't argue with the speech. You cannot outclose a closer. Asymmetry was always the only strategy I had. Instead, I asked 3 questions in my flattest month-end voice. The voice that has ended 100 beautiful presentations. First question, has this seat existed since I was 19? Or since the night you found out what I had read? He spread his hands. Sweetheart, does it matter? It's here now. Question 2. The marketing assistant. $85,000 a year. 5 years. Who cashes it? The smile held, but his eyes went to the bassinet for just a flicker. The tell of a man checking whether the witness was old enough to testify. Question 3. And I said it slowly, because I had waited 15 years to ask one he could not charm. If I sign this and standardize 5 years of records, when the numbers get questioned, and Dad, numbers always get questioned, whose name answers the door? Yours? Kayla's? Derek's? Or is that what the seat is for? Silence. My father looked at me for a long moment. Then he went to the old reliable. The closer's last tool, soft as a hymn. Your signature is already on 5 years, Sarah. We sink together, or we sail together. Same boat, always was. I stood up slowly, because 6 days after delivery you negotiate with your own body about everything, and I put one hand on the bassinet rail. Not for the drama. Because I needed to hold the reason. 15 years, Dad, I said, and my voice came out level, unhurried, a report being read into the record. Since I was 19, every January, every audit season, every cleanup. You know what I finally understood lying in this building while my card paid for the excursions package? He waited. Closers know when the room has to speak. You always wanted my numbers. You never wanted my name. My numbers stayed in the family. My name stayed off the door. That was the whole design. The weapon stays secret, or it stops being useful. I looked at the leather folder, the pen gleaming on it like bait on a hook. Everyone in this family was always at work. Tampa, the office, big quarter. You know what's funny, Dad? I was the only one in this family who was ever actually working. I turned the laptop toward him and brightened the screen. The header of the disclosure, the amended filings queued behind it, his company's name sitting in a government portal like a boat already on the chain. You taught us looking poor costs more than being poor. We're finally going to find out which one actually costs more. And with my father watching, with my daughter 6 days old between us, I clicked submit. The portal did what portals do. No thunder. No gavel. A gray button went briefly blue. A confirmation number appeared. 10 digits, and the truth about Newell Marine Group left the family forever at 4:19 on a Thursday afternoon. The quietest sound I have ever heard a life change to. My father didn't shout. I want you to know that because I had braced for the shout, and what came was worse and better at once. He looked at the screen until the confirmation number burned in. Then he closed the leather folder slowly, both hands, the way you close something that will not be opened again. He stood, buttoned his blazer, and looked down at Nora one last time. You just orphaned yourself, daughter, he said, and his voice cracked exactly once in the middle where the salesman could not reach. No, Dad, I said, and it came out almost gentle, because it was almost gentle. I just stopped making payments. He walked out of room 412 without the folder. It sat there for an hour before an orderly asked if it was trash. And I said yes. Watch what you say to tired women. Because I meant it. That evening, in the same chair with Nora asleep in the crook of my left arm, I signed the other set of papers on that rolling table. The divorce petition. My name. The date. Done. 2 signatures in one afternoon. One to the government, one to the court, and both of them said the same thing in different fonts. My name. My life. My ledger. Here is the accounting, because you have stayed with me this long and you deserve the actuals. The audit took 14 months, exactly as boring as justice usually is. Newell Marine Group was assessed $1.3 million in back taxes, penalties, and interest. The fleet was sold at auction. The Coral Gables house grew a realtor's sign. My parents moved to a 2-bedroom condo near the causeway, close enough to the water that my father can still smell the life he staged. He tells people at the marina that his daughter stabbed the family. Fewer people every year find that story load-bearing because the public record is public, and records, unlike stories, don't need anyone to believe them. Kayla got a job with a time clock. Derek. The divorce decree ordered him to repay the card charge and half of what he had moved. $37.50 plus $18,700. He was, as Priya predicted, genuinely shocked that ledgers run in both directions. He sees Nora twice a year. Some men are excursions, not voyages. My mother sends birthday cards to a P.O. box I set up for exactly this purpose. A small door with conditions, and so far she has honored them, which is its own quiet astonishment. A forensic accounting firm in Seattle that had sat across from me on a case years ago called the month my 4-sentence post went up. 2 years later, I stood on a gray Northwest morning, coffee in one hand, Nora's stroller handle in the other, and watched a man in overalls press gold lettering onto glass. Newell Forensic Accounting. My numbers and my name, finally on the same door. The whistleblower claim is still out there somewhere in the federal machinery. Priya says years, maybe never. If it arrives, it goes straight to Nora's college fund. If it never does, it changes nothing, because I didn't file it for the money. Some ledgers you correct for the record. I spent 15 years believing that if I balanced their books carefully enough, love would eventually balance too. But love was never a ledger you earn your way into. It's a name on a door. And the only door that ever owed me my name was the one I finally built myself. If you are the one who keeps the family running while somebody else takes the cruise, let this be your sign to check where your name is, and where it isn't. Share this with the person who does the quiet work in your family. Drop a comment and tell me what you would have done in room 412. Hit subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.